Hello, my lady loves. So I am making this class, I am making this recording as an intro to the intro of Forgive and Evolve. And uh, it is the wee hours of the morning, and I don't have any English classes to teach today. So instead, I am going to share with you a PowerPoint breakdown of the class itself, what it is going to entail. It is a teaser. It is also helpful preparation for those who have already signed up for the class. And for those who are still kind of on the edge, we have another week for you to sign up because the vote inside the course was to push it a week so that everybody could start together. So for this, nobody could have shown up because with sincere hopes, you're all still sleeping. So I'm going to share the PowerPoint. But actually, before I do, it's important in any kind of course, any kind of class that entails a metaphysical edge, something that is about the evolution of the heart, to really center in the heart before we even get started. So let's just do a mindfulness exercise. Some would call it a mini meditation, but I follow the scientific definition based on Harvard's evaluation of what meditation is, which actually follows the Buddhist understanding, the Eastern mind's understanding of meditation. So instead, we'll do a mindfulness exercise where we will just begin to anchor and center in our own hearts, in the heart chakra, not in the organ of the heart, which is slightly to the left, but instead right in the center of the chest where the sternum is. We're just going to bring our attention to it. It's that simple. There's nothing you need to do with your mind in order to make that happen. Just to bring your attention to the heart center. And take in a nice deep breath. And let all of the air out of the lungs. Draw in and fill the low lungs, mid lungs, high lungs. And release low lungs, mid lungs, high lungs. Inhale one more time. Release low, middle, high. And whether it's just placing your fingers on the center of the chest or bringing your mind as if the you that thinks a lot, that races around, jumps in an elevator in the mind and it drops down through the throat, landing in the center of the chest. And we set our intention for this class, for this learning, for this course, for this adventure. And my intention is to help you. So take one more deep breath, let it all out through the lungs, and as you exhale, release your hand, release your eyes open. Centered. So somebody had asked me earlier, I got a text asking if I had done a meditation when we intended to do the class, and the answer to that is yes. I sent out a little energy, love, and hug to all of you who, whether you signed up or you just happened to mention interest, and to all my lady loves throughout the world and throughout the United States, because that is really the intention of this class. The intention is to enable, to empower, to awaken, to actualize love. And as I send it to you, it fills up in me. So there's that. So let's get into our slideshow. All right. Boom. All right. So forgive and evolve, untying the tethered and the becoming of the better you with Heart Evolver. That's me. So, untying the tethered and becoming of the better you is probably the title that my desire would have gone with. But for the sake of brevity, as I've been told by Shakespeare, that is the soul of wit. Forgive and evolve really summarizes those red words on the slide. And the image that you see, and that I've used a couple from that shoot, that they were taken on an iPhone, no special effects were added. These were various meditations that I did in Smithville, New Jersey, at a beautiful park that is there. And I did those meditations in order to, with the intention to make the light visible that I work with. And because I believe that we can go much further in metaphysics to meet people where they live, to help them to see heightened vibration. And so I hope that this course will enable us to increase our vision as we increase centering ourselves in our hearts. And really and truly, I will tell you that I put this course out intentionally over the holiday season. I know it's not the easiest time. It probably is one of the more difficult times for women, especially, to take care of themselves. We have a tendency to run after whatever we can wrap up in the hopes that it will create love for other people or happiness. And the cycle of this can be very disappointing when January rolls around, or even the end of December, after the big Christian holiday of Christmas. But the reality is that that process is a part of the patriarch that needs to go. It's a part of a continuation of erasing ourselves for other people, which I don't think at the heart of them is what is desired. It's just a cycle. So I put it out there so that you could include yourself in this process this holiday season, and as we move for a new year, so that you can be in a position at the beginning of the year to feel included in your own life. And instead of that beginning of January, when we look back over the year and oftentimes say, oh, I didn't do those things, or I didn't stick to those promises I made last year, you can say, I'm doing all I can to be an active participant in my own evolution. And so much of that evolution depends on clearing out the stuff that is filling our insides that just doesn't belong there, that's not really who you are. And so as we step forward in this course, one major sentiment that I wish to impart is that this is not a self-improvement course. It is not a self-improvement course. So please eradicate, destroy, set on fire that intention, if that is the intention that you came in with. We can shift those words, but more importantly, shifting that motivation is so important, because I did a lot of damage to myself over the years, thinking that I was going to be better. I was going to take a course. I was going to study this or that. I was going to learn. I was going to get attuned. I was, whatever the deal was, that I was going to be better when it was done. And it's really, it's a part of that self-loathing cycle, which doesn't have to be. You already really are perfect. There is probably in you, as there has been in me and from time to time, is just stuff that doesn't really belong to you. And so this is more a sorting process. This is more an unveiling process. This is more of just eradicating what truly isn't yours. It doesn't belong to you, and it doesn't belong taking up space inside of you. And when we can release that which is not true to us, what we are doing is truly discovering who we have always been, waiting underneath that other stuff. So not a self-improvement course, an unveiling of the perfection that has always been you. Always, always, always. All right. So, all right. So perspectives on how to take in this course and process. This is a course, even the information at times comes with a kind of jargon or language that is very heightened and that will, I promise you, skip your analytical features. When we are raising our vibration, the ego often jumps up to protect us from any change, whether that change, even when that change is positive. Right? And so the change here is positive. We are anchoring in our hearts, the safest place that we can be and the wisest place that we can be. So heart centering is really the primary aim here. Decluttering that area and then centering ourselves in the true heart. When people talk about things like, which just furrow my brow a bit. This idea that, oh, my feelings feel one way and my head feels another and da-da-da, and it's so torn, and when I act on my feelings, I get into trouble. They're not referring to their feelings. They were referring to their instincts, right? And often when fear is in the mix of decision-making, I've actually never seen anybody make a decision on fear that turned out well. It didn't require cleanup. So instincts are a very different thing than heart-centered feeling, right? So we're going to move into our hearts and learn how to think from there. And science even supports this, something you can look up. Neurons line the lining of the heart. And the heart has the most voltage of all the organs, the most electrical charge within the body is within the heart. It is the strongest of all of the organ features. It is far stronger than the brain, right? And so when I make reference to the mind, I'm really meaning to use both the heart and the gift and the blessing that intellect is, right? So the mind is more that combination of using our consciousness and raising our consciousness. And we raise our consciousness by being in our hearts. And I have in parentheses here, you are not your thoughts. So often that ego will shoot thoughts at us of fear when we're stepping into a process like this, which for many may be encountering some of the unknown. And we all fear the dark from time to time. But the reality is that the dark is not where bad things lie. It's where the mystery is. And the mystery is the mother, and the mother is the feminine. And so many of us have truly feared and villainized the divine feminine that is within us because we've confused it for the undivine feminine, right? The fallible feminine, which for most of us, that first example was in our mothers. And no matter how awesome your mother is, she's still fallible because she's human. And often we base our whole understanding of the feminine on our earliest experiences with our mothers. And for some of us, that's not the most awesome paradigm. So we're going to step up our understanding of the feminine in this course and our experience of it and our allowance. Allowance is a key word in dealing with the feminine. So we're going to work with releasing harsh judgments. And for different folks, you're going to be at a different place with that process. But I will be giving you really practical practices, not thoughts to think, right? Thoughts to think, that's sweet, but that's like the slowest level of change. You can intellectually know that out of something, but that doesn't make it change. Because in that intellectual knowing, we can share that information with others, but we're not in practice with it in our own lives, where we live with ourselves. And this is not a perfection practice, right? So you're not expected to just get it together, but instead to just start to pay attention as you are spending more time in your heart center and more time in the silence within yourself. The rummaging of the lower mind often can participate. And so just know you are not your thoughts, and how we can just begin to pay attention to releasing harsh judgments is pay attention to the tone of voice that that is in that brambling in the mind. And if it is angry and scared, one simple thing that I've done through the years, which really transformed my inner dialogue, was simply paying attention to that panicked voice on the inside, or that very angry or stern voice on the inside, and spoken out loud to it and said, I understand, little buddy, you're scared. We're going to be okay. And that might seem a little fragmenting at first, speaking to yourself in the third person, but I promise you it works wonders. And there's a time to transition out of that, but this would really be the time to be working with that. So this way, the one that speaks is the higher aspect of you. And in order to even realize that, we have to kind of have the experience of becoming aware of what is that inner voice? How does that inner voice participate with me? What tone does it take? And what story is it telling? And I don't have to feed into the story. I don't have to argue with the story. I don't have to convince myself of something different, but just to pay attention. And in that paying attention, to be willing to be a little bit more loving and accepting. There are reasons why it is the way that it is, but we are in the direction of changing it. So, and lastly, to repeat, this is not a self-improvement course. Okay. And I realize after saying all of that, you might think, oh gosh, but I'm working on improving myself. But I promise you this, you were not born into this life with that angry voice rambling around in your head telling you nonsense stories about your lack of worthiness or not enoughness. You were born into this life knowing just how perfect you were. And it wasn't even a question. So life does what it does, experiences do what they do, and it can all change, and we can unveil ourselves. So we will be moving into, in the first class, journaling effectively for the forgiveness process. And this requires honesty with oneself, right? And so please take the words and be gentle with yourself. And maybe I overemphasize this, but I am a person who has lived with made up rules and structures and stricture within myself that I've really been in a conscious place over the past probably only 7 months of really paying attention to these made up rules that I have lived by, and just as I consciously become aware of this rule or that rule, asking myself, like, does this really apply? Does it help me to be a greater contributor to the world that I live in? And does it in any way actually, is it true? Like, is it true? Is it really true to my heart, or is it just something that has been living in me? And so to be really honest with ourselves is important. Now, in the forgiveness process, we're also looking at what needs forgiving. And often people assume this will be somebody else. It may or may not be. It might be an earlier aspect of ourselves. Sometimes it's ancestral work. It really depends on where you are at. And of course, I will get clearer with all of that in the first class. This is really just a summary of what to look forward to, but really looking into how to clearly write and be true to ourselves without feeding the resentment itself, because there can be a fine line between looking objectively at what is in us and feeding something until it consumes us. So that is a process we will be going over. And the view, the perspective that I offer you here is that writing is very powerful. So anybody who has had any kind of resistance to this kind of writing, please understand that this is information that rolls around in your head probably on a very regular basis. It already eats at least a quarter of your lunch on a regular basis, with or without your awareness. So when we place something on paper, just imagine this. We are taking something that has been running a story back here. And where is that locationally? It's behind your eyes. You can't see, right? You can't see that. This is why so many of us, we can help other people. We can give them advice. We can give them experience. But to look at our own stuff is to just literally place it on a two-dimensional object. Now it's on an object, right? A flat paper that it cannot harm you. And it's going to do a lot less damage in front of your eyes than behind your eyes, because when it's behind your eyes, it's dangerous. It truly is dangerous because it feeds a story, right? A story of they have the ability to make me happy, or make me sad, or make me feel anything, right? And truth be told, the real truth is that nobody has the power to create your feelings. So it's a metaphysical exorcism to do this writing, which is very simple. And if done correctly, if following the directions, this can be a simple and even brief writing. But the power that it will restore to you is immense. And it's a huge writing, really, in any metaphysical process, should always come along for the ride. And of course, it will be very different than any kind of like affirmation journal or gratitude journal or any other kind of journaling that you've learned to do to create. This really is a process that comes before the creative process, the self-creative or the actualization process. And so last but not least, trust the process. Trust that any single thing that I am directing, that I am showing you how to do, I have done, and I have done to the extreme. I have used anything that I am showing you how to do a lot. And it has worked wonders in my life. So I am showing it to you because it works. And it's been tested with a ton of people before it made it to this course. So, All right, so we will then be getting into how to begin working with the violet flame. Use your words wisely. Prayer, affirmation, or conversations with the universe, whichever is more comfortable to you in how to phrase what it is that we're doing. And the images that I am sharing are actually, they were after a violet flame meditation, an I am teaching circle that I had given, and my hair was so very short. So that was back in, God, like 2012, maybe. 12, maybe 13, I don't know. But in the meantime, what these pictures represent, the first one was taken just before the second. And so what we were looking at was the light that was illuminating the energy field. And there are so many beautiful rainbows in this light. And then I had an inspiration, and I wanted to show the person who was taking the picture the power of words. And so I simply said, which is I am comfortable calling source, God, goddess, love, buddy, dude, friend. There are a lot of words that I use for my creator. And so I recall saying, probably I won't get it exactly, but God, consume me in your love. Consume me in the light. And that's all. It wasn't, won't you please, and can you help me, and all of this stuff, which I am not saying no harm, no foul on that. There are plenty of times that I've prayed in desperation. I think it works wonders. But this was about creative light, right? And creative light does not beg and does not need to. We do not bow before our creator. Our creator is in love with us to a degree that is beyond human comprehension. And so no begging is necessary. As soon as I said those words, the second picture was taken. And as you can see, the light and the rainbow enveloped, and the rainbow right at the level of the sacral chakra, right? So, which is the power chakra. It's where we create from. So it's a co-creative experience that we will be having. And that is what I feel good about saying about beginning work with the violet flame. So we will be moving into, within that class and the third class, the forgiveness meditation. And so we will be hybriding violet flame work with the forgiveness insight process, which I also call forgiveness meditation, and really learning just how to go with the flow of those directions. That's going to be a led meditation process, and it's really important to surrender to the leading of it and just trust. So especially for those of you who are newer to meditation, really don't worry about that. You don't need to be like some sort of like advanced yogi to be doing this work. As a matter of fact, I would prefer it if you weren't. Because that's not actually the most spiritually elevated. We have to be here on earth, right? And each of you are living in it. So the violet flame in that sense will be our booster. That will make more sense after that class. All right, so in our fourth class, working with the violet flame, we're going to get more specific, and I'm going to give a breakdown of the origins and the basic practices of working with the violet flame, what that actually means. I will be speaking primarily in that class in what is called light language, because it is the only way to truly express what is the violet flame. The placement of this is key. The reason why working with the violet flame is the fourth class is because we need to clear out first. Doing those two forgiveness processes is going to be really helpful in order to place you in a position to get more in your own heart. And so we'll learn about the I Am teachings and their origin. and the true purpose of it. And these words, no matter how many times I repeat them slide per slide, let me tell you, they will mean something different by the time we are here in the fourth class. The purpose, it's all about a heart-centered existence. Without being heart-centered, we can't even truly explore our intuitive gifts, which intuition is available to us at each and every single one of the 7 chakras, and even above. And even below. Oh gosh, there's so much. There's so much we have access to, but only when we really are clear out here so that we can just really envelop more source, more spirit within ourselves. And so this image is from that original shoot that I told you guys about. And this is me invoking the violet flame directly. And had spoken a mantra for a little while, and as you can see, when I'm channeling, sometimes my face will begin to change. You can see the energy shifting around me as the light is entering, and I just love. I knew when we went to take those pictures that all I needed was a photographer, whether or not they believed that this was possible to capture metaphysical light on a camera phone, that I needed somebody who was capable of working with their third eye. And that so long as they had that, and they had already experienced so much of the violet flame work, that it was through their eyes that this was going to be possible. And it is, and it was. So very exciting. All right. So then we move into this whole process is like, it really, I can't even take credit. I woke up and had a very short meditation, and like this just shot through me, each level of this course. And it really, yeah, it's so exciting. So we'll be doing soul mending with regression. Now, regression here, I didn't want to put past life regression because not all of us will be doing past life regression. Some will need to regress and do some mending within this life. And let me tell you, that's just as valuable. We'll be looking at the dynamics of trauma and how it affects the soul itself. And really what soul splinters are essentially an effect of trauma, and it's an aspect of the soul that's in resentment. So it is like at the heart of what is spiritual malady, and how we can actually call back in that facet of self and release the soul from its reeling in a past trauma, in a moment in which it was not okay being at the body or being in the consciousness at the same time as whatever was being experienced. So we will be retrieving those lost pieces, and that is like one of the greatest highs I've ever experienced in my life. As many of you know, I've been quite experimental with a lot of different highs, and so sober now, don't worry. But this is the highest I probably have ever felt, is after a soul mending session or soul regression, or yeah. So the image that I have here is of Persephone, who is lost in the underworld. And so we're engaging a little bit of this mythology, right, of the lost sister who is in the underworld and reaching for the light and wanting to reunite with the familiar. And so soul actualization will then be our 6th class. And we will be integrating what has come back to us. We will have an opportunity in every class to do a little, catch up with where you're at, what your experience is, and then using that piece to come into wholeness. We'll be talking about some additional spiritual tools that can be used in that process, and how to really continue with this work as sometimes as it in the metaphysical aspect, right? In the highest dimension, it happens just like this. So we do the activity, it's done. But we are human beings who live on Earth, and it takes time to integrate all of these pieces. So letting go of destinations while taking back our souls as the leader of our lives. And what I mean by that is often when I meet someone who says, I have this problem, I have this problem, I have this problem, right? And 10 times out of 10, the majority of the solutions, I'll say 9 times out of 10, because sometimes the solution is leave, get out of there, change, some other form of change. But 9 times out of 10, the solution that they are looking for that's going to give them all of these things that they are craving is meditation. It is the most ancient technology that we have access to. And it is a technology, right? We are accessing something more than ourselves, and we are allowing it into ourselves. If that's not the most ancient form of the internet, I don't know. But stories come up of I can't, or my mind won't let me, or and the thing is that the mind, sometimes you sit to meditate, especially in the beginning, your mind can tell you things like, almost with the same level of agita, like we're going to die if we sit here any longer. A life all of a sudden has this new emergency level of like, I've got to go make the toast, or like whatever the story is. And it feels like we just can't, right? And that is when the mind, we are slave to our own mind, to the story of our mind, right? So it's the first level of really the evolution, right? Is to stop believing that story. And even the story keeps playing, right? But I'm just going to bring the body. So that's my will interceding and saying, okay, my mind is telling me a story. I don't have to listen. And now I'm going to sit. And then my body will do things, like my foot will go numb. And then the story becomes like, I'm going to die. There's going to be a clot. I'm going to, I've heard all kinds of things. Some of you may have even said them at some points. but the reality is like, no, like, I'm not going to die. And if I feel an ache or a distracting, because the body is the only thing I've ever listened to at this point in development, right? So if my body aches, I'll move, I'll adjust, I'll wiggle, I'll crack my right? And all of this becomes the next level of distraction for raising my consciousness. And that means that my body owns me. I'm a slave to my body. And so whatever, then we break through that level of bondage, and we learn to be still, and we learn that it's going to be okay. And like my whole entire leg is dead, right? And it's not dead, but it feels that way, and it doesn't feel comfortable. And that's a message. My body just wants me to, my consciousness, my soul is wise enough to say, no, we can just sit here. We can sit through this. We're going to survive. And it's going to be better after. And that comes through experience of living through it. I lived through a sleepy foot, and I got over it. I came back to life. Now, in the kind of work we're going to be doing, all kinds of loud physical stuff is going to come up because it needs to, because that's what we're doing. We're saying, give me your message, right? Body, I want to have a new relationship with you. My feminine, my soul and my body really are an aspect of the same thing for the time that we are in this life. So when I become willing to sit anyway through that, then all of a sudden it's really my heart. My heart is now leading, and I'm heart-centered. But that pulse, that's an autonomic feature, just like the breath. So that's the spirit, right? That's the soul. It's where the spirit, breath, and soul pulse. right? And the many pulses of the body, the pulse of the spine, the pulse of the organs, but really the pulse of that heart is an aspect where the soul intertwines with the physical body. And when that leads, when my mind can't tell me any lie to distract me, and I no longer become angry at my mind for producing its form of protection, a protection that doesn't protect me or keep me safe, but this is when my soul begins to lead, right? And it's a dance. Like it's not like you get there and then you stay there forever. That'd be cool. And I mean, hey man, if that's the way it works for you, good. But if that's not the way it works for you, good. It is what it is. It's all a dance. So, but the more time I spend, even a few moments in one life of the soul leading my choices, which means I no longer need logic to make my choices. I don't have to normalize everything. I don't have to egoize everything. I am actualizing by listening. I'm just going to keep listening to that intuition, right? And it's not about how many times I don't. It's about how many times I try again. And because that's a relationship, right? All right, so evolving through soul progression. So this is the first time I will be doing this with a group. It is very exciting, and it has to do with the creative process, because at this point, we will be there, right? We will be at class 7. So we will be glimpsing a future timeline, which is always changeable and negotiable through choice and action, right? And what that means is I am not a person who believes that you're just going to sit down and visualize something and then there it is, right? There are logical actions that we would need to take that are in agreement, that are in congruence with this vision. And the vision is going to come through the soul, and it's going to express itself through the vibration of the heart. And then it's going to whisper its way up through the minds, and we will be in a kind of meditation. I will lead you to the space where you can have this experience, and then you will have this experience. And then it's just about trusting that vision, and then working with the violet flame beyond healing into evolution is the aspect here where as stuff comes up within that class that is in any way blocking that vision, right? As that happens all the time, you have this vision and your mind says, oh, but I hate that, but I'm scared of that, but I don't like this, but right? All right, that's cool. And it's necessary. So I am not looking for you to suppress, consciously choose to ignore that stuff. That's the good stuff, because as it rises, it's going to probably be communicating through the body as well, through certain areas. And then we're going to work that out with the violet flame, and you will so know what I mean by the time we get there. We're going to work with that incredible rocket ship of shift in order to reprogram, because the violet flame does have so much to do with reprogramming, not just the conscious message. We're not really messing with the conscious message at all with the violet flame, aside of the clarity of knowing that you create through the language that you use. And when that language is, when you are heart-centered and connected, that language is so much more powerful because and then God said, let there be light. And there was light. And there isn't a child born who doesn't know that God is love. It is the number one definition given when anyone is asked. And so when love creates through language, creation can take form. That is the way in which we were made in the fashion and form of our Creator. And the image that I have to the right here is a painting. It's a very large painting that was on my wall back in Collingswood, New Jersey, and it is called The Metamorphosis. And I think it's really appropriate. The artist's name is Martha Stanwood, and she is, I think she's currently visiting in Ocean City, New Jersey, but she primarily lives in Hawaii. I don't know, she could be back by now. And that painting is still for sale, I believe. It's $3,333, if that hasn't changed. I can get you her contact details if anybody would like that painting. I know she would love it to move into a new home. It was with me. I was babysitting it for years, and it did wonders for me. And this metamorphosis is really, that's the aim to me of this course, not to reach some sort of strange place where you think hopefully won't be moving away from this idea, right? Which is very popular anti-spiritual, anti-life perspective, that we just reach toward the light and reach toward the light and reach toward the light, and there should only be light. We should all wear white and only white, no other colors, and blah, blah, blah. Like, we want to knock the bullshit off, right, in these processes. We want to include ourselves and let it be a metamorphosis. And if you forced a metamorphosis for a butterfly, you would kill it. So we allow the soul, and in this image you can see there's the soul eking out, and the transformation of the spirit into new life, right? And butterflies have so much to do with transformation. The full scale of this painting, which is not entirely visible, is of many different horizons, many different places. And so this course will take you where you need to go. And everybody's path may lead them in different directions. But in my opinion, you're always on the path. There is no time in which you were not on the path. There's not the bad path and the good path. You're always on the path. And so we can make treasure of the pain and suffering that brought us here. And to my experience, my pain and suffering has been, and at times excruciating, but beautiful conversation between my own soul and this life and my consciousness, and has called me more and more to just find the center of my own heart and be there. It is the safest we will ever be, and it is the most powerful vantage point of choosing and creating this life. So I do hope you enjoyed this intro, and that you absolutely feel the love. If you have any questions about signing up, if you haven't already, you were on the fence and this somehow pushed you over the edge, then please contact me. You can just inbox me. All right, so thank you so much, and I will see you soon.